2010. Now, we got here partly because of rainfall, because we were able to push our hydro dams. But we wouldn't have got here in spite of the rainfall if we hadn't done what we've done. You might recall that earlier in the year I went to Jebba to commission one of the refurbished turbines. The Jebba turbine, none of the Jebba turbines had been maintained in terms of, the prescribed is 6-yearly turnaround maintenance for Jebba. Since President Buhari commissioned it in 1985, it has not undergone a turnaround maintenance. So that was the first time when he came back. So what you then have is that in Jebba, in Kainji, in Shiroro, you are having more maintenance. 3 turbines in Shiroro have undergone turnaround maintenance, so they shouldn't have problems for the next 8 years. So because we have extra turbines working, we can take more energy from the rain. Rain fell last year, but we didn't have 300 extra megawatts from those turbines. As far as the distribution side is concerned, that is mainly the responsibility of the DISCOs. There are challenges across the value chain. We're working with them to improve their customer service and in particular their supply of meters. Just before I got here, I just got a text from somewhere in those states that they don't have power. And so I've just called, I sent the text to MD Benin Disco to deal with it. So, and this is what we get quite frequently. You may also recall that we were part of a program hosted by China. It's called the Cross, and I think Kadaria hosted and moderated that program quite well. What we wanted to deal with there was to explain to people what the challenges of metering were, and so we brought the meter manufacturing companies just to demonstrate to people that we can manufacture meters in Nigeria.
Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, giving a scorecard, if you like, of how it's been like for 1 year in office and focusing on those key issues, talking about metering, power generation and distribution as well. And even though the country has had to grapple with constant vandalism of gas pipelines, they have been able to hit some peak, and not unconnected to the fact that there's been increased rainfall and it's been managed pretty well. So in the coming days, so much that ministry will be working on, and we've got our eye on it. And also another story we've got our eye on is the inflation for the month of October that has just been released by the National Bureau of Statistics. Ermonsela Aziba, investment analyst with AfriInvest, joins me now to take a look at this report. So good morning to you, Ermonsela. Thank you so much for joining me on today's program.
Good morning, Harriet. Thank you for having me.
So, first reaction. Of course, this story broke out. This report was released just about over an hour ago. What do you make of this? AfriInvest definitely would have had some projections towards the October inflation numbers.
Yes, first of all, I think it would be good to give a thumbs up to the National Bureau of Statistics. They had earlier stated that by 9 a.m. the reports would be released, and they kept this. So this is also a good development. But now delving into the reports, we saw a year-on-year inflation of 18.3, which was broadly in line with our projection here at AfriInvest. We also projected a growth in both the food sub-index and the core sub-index as well, and we saw this. So headline inflation increased to 18.3 from 17.9% in the preceding month. Also looking at it on a month-on-month basis, we had inflation. Well, headline inflation grew marginally. The pace of growth was increased marginally by about 2 basis points, which was 0.8%. month on month. That was the month on month change that we saw in headline inflation. For the food sub-index, like I mentioned, the food sub-index was up to about 17.1%. We've seen higher prices of foods, which can also be broadly linked to higher transportation costs that we've seen, given the increase in fuel prices and all. And looking at the core sub-index, like I mentioned earlier, higher energy prices, transportation costs also fed into the index, and this is what also drove the increase that we saw in that space also. But like taking a broad view, we also have to remember that we sort of also have this low base effect that has continued to push the inflation rate higher. So there's a chance that by the turn of the new year, we might start to see some moderation in CPI, in the headline inflation.
But then, Eromonsele, we're not seeing any moderation, for instance, in the price of petrol as sold across the states. If you listened, of course, I'm sure you got that report as well. Premium motor spirit, on average, is still selling at 146 naira per litre, as against the 145 stipulated. And we still have states like Yobe, Nasarawa, and Abia, selling at between 150 and 148 naira per litre, and this is very critical because the cars use it to, of course, you use it to fuel your cars and move products from inside the rural areas to town to sell your food stuff.
Yes. So that's one of the issues that we've seen. We saw that average fuel prices actually declined to about 145 naira per 9. Cover from about 146 that we had in the previous month. Yes, since the price modulation that we saw earlier in the year, fuel prices have actually gone up. But what we've noticed is that the month-on-month change has actually moderated steadily by about 0.3% for about the last 4 months. Prior to the price modulation, where we still had fuel sold at 86 naira 50 kobo, we had fuel. It was just in some certain states that we had fuel actually sold at that price. In states up north and farther from this region, we had fuel selling as high as 170 naira per litre.
All right, Eromonsele.
So what the price modulation actually did was there was some sort of conversion in convergence in the price of. All right, so
we'll talk more about this in the coming days. But thank you so much, Eromonsele Aziba, investment analyst with AfriInvest, for sharing your thoughts with us on the program. Our Business Morning continues in just a moment. Stay with us.